Hello and
Hello.
welcome back. Today, we have the honor of interviewing Betska K-Burr, an esteemed coach, author, and developer of the revolutionary Science of Mind-Kinetics coaching system. She's the co-president of Coaching and Leadership International Corporated. Betska has created over 80 award-winning methodologies. She is recognized as one of the top 100 global management consultants by CEO Today magazine in 2019 and 2020. She has been a lead trainer on 5 continents since the year 2000. As an accredited master coach, Betska has guided clients in over 50 countries to achieve remarkable results, with some experiencing up to 1,000% change in behaviors and competencies. She's also the co-host of the podcast Borderless Leadership and a Canadian best-selling author of books like Creating Champions and Unleashing Potential. She has so much value to share with us today. Please join me in welcoming the exceptional Betska K-Burr.
Thank you, Caroline. Wow, I love your enthusiasm. Bravo.
Thank you for joining us today, Betska. So I would love to ask you this question. How did you get started in coaching?
Wow, that's a deep question. Okay. After our daughter was born, I became bankrupt emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, physically, but thank God, not financially. And so I went. I'm an executive at this point, and I am trying to find out what's wrong with my body and my mind because my mind went very fuzzy. I went to my doctor. She did all kinds of tests. Nothing was wrong with me. And then an artist friend of mine suggested that I see this lady named Jan Sweeney. So I said, okay, I really trusted him. I went to see Jan. In those days, she was called a facilitator of stress elimination, which is basically what a coach can do for you today, right?
Yeah.
And I had a couple sessions with her, and I just said, Jan, you need to teach me this stuff. Can I do it on myself? And she said,
Hmm.
yes, you can. Great. So I took some courses from her, started doing some, it's all based on the subconscious mind. So things, blind spots we don't even know we have, or strengths we don't even know we have, they're hidden, right?
Hmm.
God did a nice job of hiding them deep in our heart. So we have to find them. And so I started using these tools on myself, and then people started knocking on my door, and they had seen a change within me because I
Right.
come from an abusive childhood. So I had a lot to heal, and an abusive corporate life. I had a lot to heal. So I started working on myself. People noticed the difference, and then they started knocking on my doors to say, can you help me? I said, I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't know. I can try.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And then the word started to spread. And then I was asked to do weekend workshops on coaching. And then I started developing all these techniques, the science of mind kinetics that has over 80 coaching methodologies and another 40 to take you into your superconscious and so on.
Yeah.
So I fell into it, but it was more my higher power guiding me there, I think.
Right. Wow. So it's basically you have a burnout to bestseller story,
I do. I
right?
absolutely
Because
do. Yes.
you are also a best-selling author.
I am.
Yeah. So can you tell me about what inspired the first book that you published?
Well, when I was still in the corporate world, before I had this panic thing, um, I was reading books, by top leaders in the world, and they were good books, but I wanted something condensed. So any leader anywhere in the world could pick this book up and they could read the top 10 things that would make them a better leader, a stronger leader, a more compassionate leader, uh, a more kind leader, a more balanced leader, left brain, right brain. So I just sat down one day and no, actually what happened was I lost my job. I was a senior leader in an international company,
Yeah.
and I lost my job. Basically, I was fired,
Okay.
and along with other executives, because this new guy came in and he said, I don't need you guys anymore. I have a new strategic plan. Fine. So, after a couple of weeks of really hurting inside, because when you get fired, you wonder, well, what did I do wrong? And so did
Mhm.
the other leaders who got fired as well. And so I went to my husband and I said, what do I do now? He said, well, what would you like to do? I said, I would like to write a book on leadership that summarizes leadership that I've never heard about before, or a book I've never read.
Right.
And he said, then why don't you do that? My wonderful, supportive husband, said, go ahead. So I took a few
Yeah.
months to write it.
Yeah.
And our daughter was, she was 7 or 8 months old when I started it, right? Started
Oh,
writing the book. And so she was at home part-time, and she went to the daycare nursery part-time. And, but what's also very interesting about this was that for some reason, I felt I needed to become a professional speaker. And this lady, uh, said to me, well, how are you going to market your book? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, you need to become a professional speaker. That's how it happened. And I said, okay, how do I do that? And she said, here's the meeting on this date. You need to come. So I went from London, Ontario to Toronto, 2-hour drive roughly, and started attending the National Speakers Association meetings. And that was a godsend, because that was one way to market your books
right.
in those days.
Yeah.
We didn't have the internet like we have today. And
Right.
so we had to do the legwork. We had to stand in front of, a couple dozen people or a couple 3,000 people and talk about our book and share our wisdom, and then people bought our books.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like the writing of your first book and the coaching all kind of happened at the same kind of time.
Well, no, it didn't, because it was leading up to it, though,
Yeah.
right? It took me a while to go through all the healing, and then to write the book, and then
Mm.
go to these meetings, and meet professional speakers and get them to teach me. And then
Right.
Jan came into my life, so it was a natural progression, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Wow.
I had no idea that I would become a coach.
Oh, yeah,
I
right.
was becoming a professional speaker, an author and professional speaker, and
Yes.
then the coaching came in because it was
Oh,
time. It was that era when
yeah.
coaching was becoming a thing. Yeah,
And am I correct in thinking that that first book became a best-selling book because you did all those speaking gigs?
that's right.
Tell me again how that happened, and like how many people needed to have bought your book, like how hard you needed to have worked.
Oh, yeah. So I self-published, and then a publisher actually picked up my book, and but I did most of the selling from the platform, from the professional speakers platform. And how did I get those speaking gigs? Well, I started doing all this in January, and then a friend of mine said, I think you need to hire this lady who works at 3M. And I used to work there too, wonderful company, and get her to market your books for you. And I said, okay, well, let me interview her. Her name was Jane Atkinson. And if any of you want to do some very strong professional speaking, you want to talk to Jane. She's still out there today. So she came on board, and I started speaking at all these events, because when I first started speaking to these small groups, I went to every single Rotary group and Lions group and women's group and whatever. And I did free talks, right? And I still recommend that to new authors today. Go and do your free talks, because when Jane came on board, I handed her a wad of business cards, 150 leads thick. It's a lot. So I said, okay, Jane, these are all these people who said they were interested in my book and my speaking abilities. So away you go, and that's what she did. But she did it all by fax machine back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. But the key was to answer your question fully, I sold over 5,000 books in Canada on my own, basically, through all these speaking gigs, and that's what it took to become a best-selling author in this country at that time. Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. What an incredible story in itself.
It is.
How far self-publishing has come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I did a pretty good job. I to this day, I still love the color,
Yeah, show us the book. There we are, Creating Champions.
And you see, it's even got, gold embossed. It's a stunning looking book.
Yeah. It
Inspiring
is
excellence in the workplace. Yeah.
And this book it's that feeling of you didn't have it, so you're going to create it.
Yeah.
And right, it's something that you want to put out there. You haven't experienced it. It's like the way that what I'm likening it to is the mother that you never had, or the teacher that you never had. It's like the leader that you never had, right? Mm-hmm. And you're gonna research it, you're gonna figure it out, you're gonna do it for yourself, and you're gonna put it out there for other people.
Mm-hmm. And it's still, to this day, it's an amazing book, I think, because Caroline, I mean, as well as I do that, people only want to watch like a 15-minute video maximum. They want a 2-minute, and it's the same with books. They want fast reads, and so my chapters are quite small, and they're very impactful with lots of data, and the book is filled with incentive programs, because that was one of the main things I wanted to publish. Was we were very successful in the company I was working with to incentivize our salespeople to go out and sell.
Right.
And so we would play all these games. I was head of marketing. So we would play all these games, and they would win television sets or whatever. And wow, the salespeople just lapped it right up. They thought it was great. So I took all of those incentive programs and put them in the book, because I could not find another book like it, and I still can't find another book like it. Because if you are a sales manager or you're a CEO of a company and you want to make sure that everybody in the organization is pulling their weight, then let's have an incentive program, right? It really gets people off their duff.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be compared a little bit, maybe,
Yeah.
It's fun. It's great. It's a wonderful book. I to this day, I'm very happy with it. Yeah.
Amazing. So you just told me that you had a background in sales and marketing before you became a coach.
Yes, that's
This is very interesting, because a lot of coaches, they go through their coaching programs and they're not given the sales and marketing tools.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons that I'm in the business that I'm in, which is helping people to become, especially, and coaches, content creators, consultants, they come to me and to my peers because we have a marketing strategy that is easy for them to understand and creates an authentic brand for people. So my question to you is your background in sales and marketing, did it directly help you with your coaching, or was there what kind of integration did you need to do for it was a product, right? Sales and marketing, a product, to sales and marketing value and sales and marketing like service rather than a product?
Well, I was immersed in marketing before I worked for Lanier, this company. I was working at the big 3M and had wonderful bosses for the most part. And most of these guys were MBAs. They had done a lot of work in that field. And so they were my mentors. For example, doing market research. I never even thought to do market research, but I learned that skill under them.
Right.
If you're going to market a Post-it note, a pad of
Yeah.
Post-it notes, then
Yeah.
how are you going to do? You have to go out and do the research on what do people want and need.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is absolutely vital for your audience. If they are looking to write a book, it's important that they create a book that is really saleable, that it has value
Mm.
to their customers, right? It's just, otherwise, why have it? And then
Mm.
when you understand the value, then you can talk about it.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Right.
So yes, it did. It helped me a lot, and then when Gloria Starr, who was my mentor, who took me to the National Speakers Association, when she said, "You need to become a professional speaker," end of story. I had no choice. She said, "Come with me." She put me under her arm, and away we went. And and she was absolutely right. The internet today, if you're going to do podcasts or write articles or make videos or whatever, you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what is the value to people
Yeah.
and then learn how to express it. So
Right.
absolutely sales. But I can tell you the sales and marketing techniques have really changed today
Yeah.
than when I launched Creating Champions. And
Yeah.
um, and I also wrote one of my books. I don't know if I mentioned it. It's called Build a Booming Business, and booming has 7 O's in it. Build a booming business.
Yeah.
And that book I wrote for coaches and consultants and trainers because uh, many of them, they may want to write a book, but they have no idea how
Right.
to market it. And
Yeah.
so our coaches who are also consultants and trainers, some of them, they love the book because it guides them from chapter 1 all the way to the end, so
Mm.
that they have the opportunity to create a very powerful sales and marketing plan.
It's so important. It's
Yes.
so important. Can you tell me a little bit more, just a little bit about how sales and marketing has changed over the years?
Oh, yeah, it's such a good question. Well, back then, as I mentioned, Jane would take my leads and she would call them voice to voice. I mean, how often do you get voice calls today?
Yeah, not very often.
No.
Yeah.
So it was that personal outreach, and I recommend everybody still do the personal outreach.
Yes.
And so she would call them, and we had a script. We wrote a script together, one that we felt was enticing and that people would want to say yes versus no
Right.
to me coming, and we were selling me as both a free speaker and a for fee speaker. They would pay me, and so and then she would follow up the leads on a fax machine, as I mentioned earlier, and then would follow up with another phone call. But today, what are we doing today? Yeah,
Yeah.
we are maybe doing email marketing,
Yeah.
or maybe we're going on LinkedIn and we've hired a company, or we do it ourselves to find leads on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, whatever. And it's more complicated.
Mm.
But I really think there's still that technique that call, send, call is what we used to call it, the call,
Okay.
send, call pattern. So you call
Yeah.
someone, you send them something, and then you call back again to get them to hire you. And to me, uh, it I think it still works.
Yeah.
And people are getting so, what's the word? when I'm on LinkedIn, if I'm sending messages to, people to come onto our podcast,
Yeah.
You get so many people contacting you, selling you this and selling you that, and you get fatigued from it.
Right.
But today, if people still use the send call pattern, and another technique we used to use back then was we used to mail things.
Right.
And even without calling them, we would establish who our target market was, and we would send bulky packages. And you can still do that today, whether it's if you've got a slim book, like one of my books is fairly slim, or we would send them a deck of values cards, send them something.
Yeah.
And people don't throw out bulky packages.
Right.
Because there's something good in there, right?
Yeah. Right.
So there's still a lot of merit to some of those old techniques for marketing. Yeah.
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 And people don't throw away books.
No. So I've done that. I've included copies of my books.
Yeah.
But only to those that we checked them out, and maybe we felt that, especially if it's a corporate account, where they might be buying dozens, hundreds, thousands of books, then we would include a copy of the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you encourage that?
Yeah. Yeah. We start with the ebook. Actually, we start with the ebook, and we have a launch for the ebook. And then if the client wants, then we do the print book. But everything is at a very, like 99 cents. Because it's a marketing tool.
Yeah.
So even, with the print book, we keep it pretty low. And then we print out our copies and we can send it. Yeah. I advocate that. Yeah.
I noticed with one of our coaches from India, his name is Bimal Raj, and he wrote the book What Next? And when you go to Amazon and you can see what his prices are compared to others, I mean, I think it's like 10 or 11 US dollars. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas, some of my books are way up there, and they're, 15, 20, 25, depending on if it's a hardcover or soft cover,
Right. So I want to bring the conversation back to your other books. So you're talking about these books being more expensive. Can you tell me why?
Expensive to produce, you mean? Is that what I meant?
Yeah, you're saying they're expensive to buy.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
Talking about like 99 cents ebooks that can be used as a positioning tool, as a marketing tool, and as a lead magnet, that kind of thing. But you're talking about like textbooks, like, right? There's a difference. So can you tell me about your other, like how your other books came along and why you priced them the way that you did?
So Creating Champions came first, and then Flying by the Seat of Your Plans is, one of the...
Great title.
Isn't it a great title? Yeah. I just love it. And the graphics inside are really cool, There's some really fun stuff. Like this one.
Yeah.
Smile, it's easier than frowning. A smile uses only 14 muscles, while a frown uses 78,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And this guy, his name is Clint.
Yeah.
Clint. CLI is my company name, Coaching and Leadership. So we named him Clint.
Right.
It's really funny. So that one came next. That's a soft cover. And Creating Champions and Flying were both soft covers. And then Build a Booming Business was actually a coil bound.
Oh.
Because we wanted it to be like a workbook as well. There's tons of information in there on how to, we're holding the coach, trainer, speaker, consultant's hand by getting them to write this entire sales and marketing plan by the end, including P&L statements, profit and loss statements, right?
Right.
And so we wanted them to be able to have room to write out what's their mission statement, what's their vision, their values for their company, their goals, and then look at their horizontal and vertical target markets. I mean, it's huge, right? And their spiritual purpose, we wanted them to figure that out. So we give them
Right.
everything they
Yeah.
need to do all that basic information.
Yeah.
And so it needed to be big enough, 8.5 by 11 inches in, Canadian measurement.
Yeah.
And then the God-in coaching, which came next, I think that was the next one. That was printed in India, hardcover, and it's a glorious book. I don't know. For some reason I felt I needed to make it really personal, and so in the middle of the book are all these color pictures of me in my earlier days as a diplomat. I was a Canadian diplomat serving in Paris, France, London, England, Bern, Switzerland, and so as a diplomat, I got to go to the Queen's garden party in the summertime, and I got to go to the Royal Ascot races, and la la la. So I put pictures of all those in the middle. I thought that was just kind of cute.
Yeah.
And
And why did you choose to publish in India?
well, because we had these fabulous distributors in India at the time, and we were just working close together, and they knew that I was writing this book and wanted to publish it, and then they must have said, well, why don't you publish it here in India? Because the printing costs were very, very low in India.
Okay.
For a hardcover, and it's 450 pages. It's a big book.
Yeah.
And then all the color images. So it was, the cost would have been prohibitive outside of India, unless you're going to go to the Philippines or China or somewhere. But we already were well established in India, so we published there.
Right.
A great printer, gorgeous looking book. Mm-hmm.
Mm. And you say you were a diplomat. Is this like recently, or is like this was during your coaching?
No, that was before.
This is before.
This is before, yeah, before I started my own company. I started my own company.
Yes.
And then prior to that, I was in the diplomatic service for 6.5 years, something like that. And that also gave me, how some people feel that the world is too big?
Right.
Not for this kid, because I was working in Europe, and I was taking the train. I was single at the time. I was traveling everywhere, and I was a diplomatic courier as well for Canada. So I was carrying by hand these little red bags stuffed with top secret information, right? So,
Ooh.
Yeah. I have some funny stories about that. And I had a guard take me to the plane, a guard take me off the plane. But just that living in those foreign countries gave me a perspective of the world as small. So don't be afraid of the world. And that's why I've got clients in 50 plus countries. I've accumulated that many, because I don't care if you're in Nepal or Ethiopia or Abidjan or Mongolia. I don't care.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's important for selling a book as well, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about Amazon. It's like an international platform, right? Yeah.
So that was my life before I joined. Because when I lived in England, I married the man that became my first husband. Wonderful guy, but he was a medical doctor, and he couldn't travel the world with me. So I quit my job in the diplomatic service. We came back to Canada, and he was doing his residency in radiology while I found another job in government and so on. But I really belonged in the corporate world.
Right.
That's where I belonged. But I was grateful for the experience in the diplomatic service in government, because wow. But what it did for me, one of the things it did for me was, if you're trying to sell yourself to government, you have to be very patient. Selling your books or selling your speaking services or coaching services, consulting, yeah.
You mean it takes time?
Yeah.
Takes time.
It takes time. Unless you get the right person who can push the button and say, yes, send me 1,000 books, right?
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
build your resilience.
Yeah, you definitely do. So all of that experience in my life was, I was very grateful for it because
Mhm.
it set me up to be the, executive coach, consultant, and speaker
Yeah.
that I am today. I'm not afraid to do anything.
Yeah. What an
Yeah.
incredible, what incredible story. Like, have you actually like unleashed a part of your life story like this? Like in a book?
Yes, in the God in Coaching,
Okay.
I wrote it first of all to be a textbook for our coaches who come through our coach training program. Right?
Yeah.
They have to read it from beginning to end, and some of them have read it 2 or 3 times because there's a lot of science in there on
Yeah.
how to change human behavior. Right?
Right.
So I wrote it as a textbook, and then it just naturally opened up that anybody could buy it.
Right.
And yeah, what was your question?
No, 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 no. It's all good. It's all good. You're answering my questions. You're
Okay.
answering my questions. So
All right.
let's get back to your books.
Yes.
Let's get back to your books. Do you have any other best-selling books, or is it the first one is a bestseller in Canada, and then the other ones?
Creating Champions became a bestseller in Canada because that's where I was speaking, right? That's
Right.
where I was focused. And because it was such a unique book. But
Yes.
all the others, uh, because I'm a coach, consultant, trainer, I train other coaches, I'm a speaker, you really need to hire someone and put a lot of marketing behind all your books.
Right.
And I didn't do that.
Okay.
And I mean, we all know that, selling books can be very lucrative, but so can being a coach when you're charging big money for your coaching skills and your speaking skills and
Right.
your consulting skills. So the book, actually, you know what? I forgot to mention, Caroline, that the reason why I wanted to write Creating
Mhm.
Champions in the first place, my first book,
Yeah.
was because I wrote it in an era when women were not seen as reputable business people.
Right.
If you wanted to hire a coach, you hire a guy. If you want to hire a consultant, you hire a guy. If you want to hire a speaker, you hire a guy. So I needed a credibility tool.
Right. Credibility.
That's right. And you know what? It worked. Because
Mm.
when Jane started, marketing me, and I was doing some marketing of myself before that, as soon as you said that you were an author, the ears perked up, right? And
Good.
there's, it got me through the door.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I reminded myself of that because that's another reason to write a book. But, and I'm really picky about my books, especially the ones that I've written myself. If I've written in concert with others, sometimes it's more difficult if I didn't have control. The quality
Mm.
might not be what I want it to be.
Mm.
But writing a book that, as we've said earlier, has value, right? That
Mm.
it should be a unique book because
Right.
I've been involved with other books where they weren't unique, and you know what? They're not selling.
Yeah.
And I think some people get into those situations because it's considered a vanity book. They simply want to say they've written a book. I go, well,
Mm.
why bother doing that? Do it so that if you're going to spend the money, write a book that has value to it,
Right.
and it's going to have an impact. Which reminds me of the book I'm about to launch. I'm hoping in the next couple months. I was just working with a designer. Caroline, it's my favorite book.
Okay, tell us about it.
Okay. It's called I Heal Me.
Mm.
And it's filled with 22 different healing tools.
Mm.
And it's for people who have encountered any kind of trauma. And let me ask you, how many people in the world have not encountered trauma?
Right. It's for everybody. It's
Everybody has.
for everybody.
So,
Yeah.
and with my with the coaching system I use called the Science of Mind-Kinetics, we can work with leaders if they want to learn how to better motivate their staff, or they want to be better at time mastery, all the way through to people who have, they've been in the Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan wars, and they're suffering from PTSD. These
Mm.
tools will greatly help anybody. If
Yeah.
you've been raped, or it doesn't matter. And I've been in this business for so long, and the system of mind kinetics is so powerful that
Mm.
you get a deep healing in every single session that you
Mm.
do with your coach. But the idea was that some people can't hire a coach; it's too expensive. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm very reasonable. Many of our coaches that we've trained charge a lot more than I do,
Mm.
but and that's okay, perfectly fine. But we wanted people to read the book and use the tools,
Mm.
practice the tools, so that they can heal some of that anguish, that anger, the frustration, the sadness inside of them.
Right.
And oh man, they're powerful. And our designer, what a fabulous job she's doing. It's going to be The God in Coaching was an incredibly well designed book with images and graphics and so on, but I Heal Me is a stunner. It's absolutely
Mm.
stunning. She's from Australia, this designer, and I'm so impressed with her. Yeah.
Wow.
hmm
Wow.
So watch out for that book coming up
I
soon.
will. I will. I will. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing about books, right? Is they are healing tools. And
Yeah.
what you're talking about is uniqueness cells.
hmm
Um, and what I teach and what I learned from my business coach is that if you unleash a part of your personal story, it is because it's a part of your personal story, it is unique.
Yes.
It is giving value because you are sharing, you systematize it, right? So you're
Yeah.
sharing how you overcame, how
hmm
you came through, how you accepted, how you learned, how you moved on, right? And how you are who you are now.
And you actually remember when I asked you a minute ago, what was your question? Well, now I remember what it was. And
Okay.
and that was the personal story.
In the
Okay, so
story,
in
yes.
the God in Coaching, I laid it all out. The abuse I
Yes.
had as a kid, and then in
Right.
my later years, and so on, and and how I had to heal from that. Abuse from my mother. My mother's gone away to heaven now, so I can talk about her. And then with I Heal Me, my younger sister got cancer of the brain, and she recently passed. And so, um, when you get someone that you love so much passing, it's very traumatic.
Hmm.
So I had to use my tools to get grounded and centered again,
Hmm.
and heal my heart, heal the part of me that was still in pain and aching.
Yeah.
So, with all my books, people, they get to know me.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry to hear about that.
hmm Well,
Mm.
it's when God says it's your time, it's your time. You just go.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk about how your books support your business. It
hmm
almost sounds like you wrote the books for your business because you have people reading those books, like studying those
Yes,
books.
yes.
Can you tell me the impact writing books has on a business?
Oh, the impact of creating champions, for example,
Mm.
was huge because it was unique in the world.
Mm.
And so when I would go to speak in front of Rotary groups or Lions groups or all of these business groups, they really paid attention.
Mm.
And so then I was able to sell the books right at the venue, and then they would hire me as a speaker or a trainer for their companies. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the flow. That was an important
Right.
business flow, and I recommend everybody do that.
Yeah.
Go and speak about your books. And if you don't have any speaking skills, um, go and study speaking. Go and
Mm.
find someone. Like one of my clients right now, he's a brilliant professional. Excuse me, brilliant professional, but he comes across like this.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm giving him voice lessons.
Right.
I hired a coach in Toronto, a voice coach. And man, that guy made me cry so many times. I felt like beating him up because,
Oh.
but he was right. I had a squeaky female voice. The voice
Mm.
you hear today is not squeaky female. He changed it.
Um, it's cultured. He cultured your voice.
He did. It was incredible. So now I know how to do, I have all these voice exercises that I give people.
Mm.
So learn how to be a proper speaker. Learn how to
Mm.
use tone and pitch and
Mm.
range, and um, you really want to have an impact when you're, because they need to sense your passion.
Right.
You will sell your books through your own passion.
Yeah.
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 So I really highly recommend that. So the God in Coaching was used, talking about business impact, right? The God in
Yes.
Coaching I wrote again for our students, so they would read the book,
Right.
and then others, uh, just came along because they heard about the book. I want to share a cute story. I haven't shared this online ever,
Okay.
but I'm going to do it because it's so cute. We never know the impact we're going to have on others through our books, right? So
Right.
one of our coaches in Europe had a baby, and she had the baby after she had learned how to train. She trained how to be a coach, and she brought the baby in to see me when I was visiting that country one year,
Mm-hmm.
and she told me the story that her baby at 2 years old would go to my book, The God in Coaching, and she would flip it over because my picture was on the back,
Yeah.
and she would kiss my picture.
Oh. Oh, that's precious. Wow.
It's a wow, and
That's divine. Like that's actually like
it's
divine.
divine. It
Yeah.
really. I know it was divine, and it was like this child could barely speak, but she could
Yeah.
feel the energy coming off of that book.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's the impact we want to have, and so the book is being read by aunts and uncles and family members of our coaches and leaders and so on.
Yeah.
And then with I Heal Me, I'll
Mm.
skip a few books, but with I Heal Me, that book, I really want to uh, ensure that people feel the value of it in
Mm.
in mass numbers, in mass numbers,
Mm.
because everybody could benefit from it.
Right.
And then of course it'll generate business for our coaches. I'll get business out of it, but our coaches, they're Mind-Kinetics trained coaches, so it would be good for them to get lots of business from it, from our launch team. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's kind of
Mm.
cool, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
How can you clarify like specifically how they will get business from that book?
Okay. So here's another idea for your folks. Um, for one of my other books, we had a launch team, and now for I Heal Me, we have a launch team. And these are folks who might also want to publish a book, or they want to learn how to market their own business as a coach,
Mm.
speaker, trainer, etc. And so we gather together, and we we've put together a plan on how we are going to market I Heal Me.
Mm-hmm.
So one person is in charge of getting media reviews. Another one is in charge of uh, book clubs. Another one is in charge of corporate sales, and the list goes on. So
Mm-hmm.
it's good to have a launch team of maybe 5 to 6 people, and
Right.
they specialize. Everybody is responsible for posting on social media.
Right.
And what we've done is we've created these little ads, these little snippets. They have over 100 of them,
Yeah.
and they can just post till their heart's content to uh, we haven't finished those for I Heal Me. This is for another book that we did. But I
Right.
think a launch team, and they could be family members, they could be friends, they could be
Mm.
colleagues, they could be clients. Yeah.
Mm.
But getting that, and the launch team, they appreciate it so much because they're learning at the same time,
Right. So
learning
they,
from our expertise. Yeah.
yeah, they're learning and they're reaching out. So
Yes.
is that what you mean
Yes.
by it will increase their own business?
Yes,
Yes,
because
yes.
what happens is we're for I Heal Me, we're going to have a landing page or a website, not sure what yet, and then only those who are on the launch team are going to
Mm.
be on that website.
Right.
That's their perk.
Right.
They
Uh-huh.
come and do the launch. They're on the launch team with no remuneration
Mm.
to start with, but remuneration
Mm.
will be there in the end. So those who
Mm.
stick with it. Uh, So I just find that concept to be really cool. And I learned that from another publisher, from Pixel Publishing. They're a
Mm-hmm.
Canadian publishing company. A wonderful man named Warren is the CEO of that company. So, boy, look what we've covered in our time together. There's so
I
much to talk about.
know.
Yeah.
I know. All right. I have two last questions for you.
Okay.
This is it. Okay. So, um, in your extensive experience of writing and publishing books, what would you say is the biggest challenge
Mm,
specifically with the writing
mm.
and the publishing?
Okay. Well, the writing, I think I've mentioned it a few times, and I'm going to talk about it again. You have to give value. It has to be unique. Something in there has to be unique so that you can sell it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it has to be really well organized. I mean, I've
Yeah.
helped some people write their books, and just like you have, and it's so disorganized. The thought pattern doesn't flow from beginning to end. There has to be a flow. There has to be tips and techniques in there. You want to have quotes from other people,
Yeah.
and you want to make it exciting. You want to really show your
Mm.
passion in the writing,
Mm.
because that can be the biggest challenge for people is they've got ideas, but they really don't know how to put it together. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and then make sure you have a good editor. Oh my God, that's so important. I've run
Sounds
into.
like there's a story there.
Oh, I don't even want to go there. Like I.
Yeah.
So that is vital, and maybe you want to have level 1 editor, level 2 editor.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest challenge I've just described for writing, and then for publishing, it is making sure you have a business plan with all the vehicles in it.
Right.
So because I didn't do that with my other books, this time I'm determined that I'm going to follow this business plan and have a launch team,
Mm.
and so and so will be in charge of this, so and so in charge of that, and we just put the real push out there. And when someone is posting the book on LinkedIn, then the other team members need to be there to like it and say something about it. You have to support each other in
Right.
the marketing, because the biggest
Yeah.
challenge today is on social media. People usually have to see an ad 7 times before they'll buy.
Oh, right. Yeah. 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 That makes sense.
hmm So you really have to make sure and it almost sounds like you're scamming, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one of the publishers I worked with said scam away because they need to see it 7 times before they'll buy. And I thought that
Right.
really hit me. That hit me,
Yeah.
Caroline. It was important. Yeah,
Yeah. It's the repetition, the consistency, the showing up, right?
yeah. And don't give up.
Don't give up.
But please have a good sales and marketing plan. Just like I
Mm,
creating champions, that was really good. And for unleashing potential, the plan is there. But I Heal Me is going to be the plan must be rock solid. But
mm,
even without a really rock solid plan, the value to that book is unprecedented.
yeah.
I've never seen another book like it. So hopefully people will buy it.
I think they will. I think they will.
I
I'm
pray. Yeah.
sorry. So, Betska, this is our final question.
Mhm.
Uh, what advice would you give to other business owners out there about writing a book?
Any kind of business. It's any kind of business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've already talked about coaches, speakers, trainers,
Mm,
consultants. Yeah.
mm,
Any business out there. Well, if you've got a unique product, wow, put it in a book.
yeah.
Because the internet is so big today, people might not find you.
Mm,
Yeah. So, um, you know, put it out there, create the book so that you are making sure that as many people as possible know about your product. That's the
mm,
bottom line, and make sure you sell it well. You know that you have an interview with Caroline, for example. That you do as many podcasts as possible. I love being a guest
mm,
on podcasts, and that you know make sure you are everywhere in social media, including YouTube and LinkedIn and so on and so forth. So
yeah.
use the book to make your product high profile. Bottom line,
Mm,
product or service high profile. Yeah.
mm, mm. What advice would you give to aspiring authors out there?
Mm. Because I'm a professional speaker,
Mm,
I know the value of telling stories.
right.
So when you're writing your book, like with I Heal Me, we open with a story of a colleague of mine who is a refugee from Vietnam.
Right. Yeah.
The trauma that she went through and how she came out of that is quite inspiring.
Mm,
So, and in all my other books, I tell stories
yeah.
because people, if you're just going to give out data and stuff like that, people are going to tune out. They're not interested.
Right.
But tell your story, tell stories of others,
Yeah.
and that's when people are going to take notice.
Right.
Tell stories, and you can, and then around the story, you can build in the data or whatever else you want to build in. You know,
Yeah.
talking about your whatever you want to write about. But the
Right.
storytelling, it when you're reading a novel, for example, why do you like reading certain novel writers? Because they're
Mm,
storytellers.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So learn how to speak,
Yes.
right? Learn how to speak.
And take writing classes.
Like,
Take speaking
mm,
classes, and take if you're going to go out and do podcasts and whatever. Take voice lessons. I know
mm,
it sounds like a lot, but I just feel blessed that I had all of that behind me because I used all of those skills
yeah.
to share my books with the world. Yeah.
Right. Wow. Thank you so much, Betska. Thank you so much. Where can we find you on social media? Just I'll put all the links that you mentioned,
Yeah.
but just to round down this interview, just
Okay.
let us know where we can find you.
Yeah. So our website is coachingandleadership.com.
Mhm.
And there are also some free tools on there too, folks. So you want to
Yeah.
take a look at that website. And And then I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, limited on Instagram because I spend so much time on LinkedIn, running a podcast. And YouTube, just Betska K-Burr, and you're going to, a rash of podcasts and interviews are going to pop up there. So they can go ahead and check them out. And if they have any questions, you can write to me at betska@coachingandleadership.com. Be happy to help.
Amazing. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
And you, Caroline. Thank
I
you.
feel like we could keep going, but we do have to. You've got so much value to give and share with people. So much experience. I'm honored that you agreed to do this interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I feel educated.
And maybe you can help me with some of my books too down the road. Let's have a chat because you never know where there could be some synergy.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.